Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, Democrat and the national co-chair for the Biden-Harris re-election campaign. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. You've known your fellow Delawarean, President Biden, for quite some time. Is it fair to say that this is the most important speech of his career?
It's certainly one of the most important speeches of his career. I thought one of the greatest contributions Joe Biden has ever made to our nation and our democracy was defeating Donald Trump in 2020. I didn't think we'd be back here and he'd have to do it again. But he has an incredible record to run on. And in the years since the 2020 election, the character and the challenges and the conduct of these two men have only made the distinction between them sharper and clearer. 91 criminal counts are in Donald Trump's future. And Joe Biden is running on an incredible record of bringing us together, getting bipartisan bills passed into law, and then investing in American infrastructure and manufacturing, lowering prescription drug prices, and protecting our veterans. So he's got a lot to talk about tonight. Yes, it's an incredibly important speech, and I'm hopeful that the American people will be watching and listening because he's got a great case to make.
So beyond the substance of what he says, there are stylistic imperatives here for any president, certainly for the previous one. But for this one right now, when there are so many Americans, according to polls, concerned that he has slowed down, concerned about his age. He's 81, the oldest person to ever hold this office. And I'm wondering what you think the challenges are for him in terms of performance, which, you know, we don't live in a textbook. We live in the real world. Performance is important.
Joe Biden says often, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And I'll tell you, his similarly aged, but not similarly experienced opponent for president this November has recently had some very public stumbles where he's confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi, or he's spoken in a way that assumes that Barack Obama is still president. Joe Biden, our president, will show tonight energy and engagement, a mastery of the issues going on around the world, and leadership here at home. I do think he needs to be optimistic about our future. He is a fundamentally positive and optimistic person who believes in America, believes in the possibility of innovation and growth and opportunity for all of us. But he's also going to have to draw a sharp contrast so that the American people understand what's at stake if they make the error of re-electing the former president rather than giving Joe Biden and his incredible and talented team in his cabinet and his very capable vice president a second term to deal with some of the issues not yet fully addressed.
So I've heard President Biden say that before, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. I mean, the American people are. And in poll after poll, in battleground states, a plurality at least, are going for Donald Trump. How do you explain that?
So, Jake, I was just campaigning in Michigan, and in the different counties and cities I was in, when you take the record of what's happened because of Joe Biden's leadership, and that people are feeling double-digit increases for UAW members, guys in the building trades who are working hard on new infrastructure projects, recent job announcements by semiconductor companies, they're very positive about what has happened while Joe Biden has been president. What is lacking is the connection. The average American isn't clear whether or not those things happened because of Joe Biden. That's the point of a campaign, is to point out to folks what Donald Trump promised but never delivered on, and what Joe Biden promised and actually delivered on, and the difference between the two of them. So we're really just beginning the campaign between here in November in earnest across the country on the ground. And I am confident that those numbers will steadily change as our economy continues to strengthen, as people see and feel the impact of everything from a cap on the price of insulin to new manufacturing job announcements, and as they focus more on the difference. Folks have had a long time without Donald Trump in their Twitter feed every day. When they have a renewed exposure to his chaos, and when they focus on Joe Biden's character and capabilities, I think they'll make the right choice and re-elect Joe Biden.
Former President Trump is saying that he wants to debate Joe Biden anytime, anywhere, any place. Is that a good idea? I mean, do you think? I mean, if it's If this is a "don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative" campaign, shouldn't
look, if
President
if
Biden?
Donald Trump,
yeah.
If Donald Trump wants to see Joe Biden in prime time, he should tune in and watch tonight. I was in the room for the debate in Cleveland that Chris Wallace tried to moderate, and it was chaotic at best. Donald Trump just busted through every possible rule or regulation of decency or decorum or following any of the directives of the moderator. I wouldn't encourage it, but I don't think the campaign or the president has made a decision yet. I just think that, frankly, the American people need to make up their own minds based on what difference Joe Biden has made in their lives.
Are you saying that President Biden should not debate former President Trump?
I think that's up to him, and I think he and the campaign will make a decision later in the year. Right now, tonight, they're focused on this important State of the Union and the chance for President Biden to lay out his case for the next term, when he will deliver on the things that are right in front of us: more investments in affordable housing, more to deal with child care and with elder care, more efforts to reduce the price of prescription drugs, more to keep us safer and stronger at home and abroad. He's got a robust and optimistic agenda for the second term and a great record from his first term.
It does sound like that's what you were saying, just for the record, that you don't think he should debate him. I mean, that's pretty clearly what you were saying, although you also said it's up to the president. Senator Chris Coons
of course,
of
it's up
Delaware.
to the campaign. Thank you, Jake.
Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much. My panel is still here.